elopers, I'm back at it. Today we will be talking about a question we get all the time, which is a very important question about elopements. How long should I budget for planning time? So there's a bit of a history to this. As we talked about in video 1, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, eloping really meant running away, getting hitched, and it was more of a spontaneous thing. And I still think that it has that connotation in people's minds. But 85% of what Simply Eloped does are actually destination elopements, and therefore they are planned and not as spontaneous as one would think. Now, while we can plan one next week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, we actually recommend budgeting 9 months to a year, and there's several reasons for this. First of all, you're planning some aspects that we aren't planning. You're planning your hotel, your airfare, and those rates just tend to go up the closer you get, especially airfare. Folks are just generally needing a little bit more time to plan those components and therefore planning in advance. Also, it's just courtesy that if you are inviting guests to give them quite a bit of heads up. We still recommend save the dates and whatnot, and therefore, giving 9 months to a year notice, especially during high wedding season, spring, summer, fall. It's just courtesy to give your guests a heads up, especially when it's important to you that the ones that you invite do show up. You're not inviting 400 people, you're inviting 20 or so. For companies like mine, we actually do require quite a bit of advance notice just because we tend to book up. If it is kind of like a high volume day, numerical dates are very popular, leap day, leap year is very popular. If you have a sneaking suspicion it's gonna be a busy day, I recommend reaching out as soon as you're able just to make sure that you can get that day. Another reason that we recommend advance notice are permits. Permits do fill up pretty fast. So for instance, in New York City, Central Park, they're already turning people away on busy days. They have no availability. So if you have a specific date in mind and you want to keep that date, it's just best to have as much advance notice as possible. Also, there are a lot of details and nuances. You might want specific vendors. They might be booked up on a busy day. Florists on our side have a tendency to fill up on busy holidays, especially Saturdays, like busy wedding days, holiday weekends. So, all of these components start adding up, and it's just really, really great to just get things locked in as early as possible, and it brings you a lot of mind. Lastly, events, there's a lot that can go wrong, and planning as far in advance just kind of assures that as little can go wrong does go wrong. So those are my tips on how long of a runway to give yourself for planning a ceremony, an elopement ceremony. Next week, we're going to be talking about the environmental perks of eloping, because only you can save the planet.